This video is sponsored by Manta Sleep. More on them later in the video.
Is BLUELOCK's U20 World Cup actually mid? This is a question I'm posing to the community after several different responses and opinions on different videos and posts of mine. The arc that has been anticipated for nearly half a decade of BLUELOCK serialization, along with the arc that has been built up since the beginning of the series, it's finally here and many people are not happy with it. Some say that it's slow, some say that it's boring, and others say that it's just not living up to the hype, which is a little bit crazy because we aren't even through the first game of the arc yet. But aside from that, I want to cover the parts of the U20 World Cup arc that I personally dislike from this arc, explaining what I would have changed to make the story better in my own personal opinion. Now, will this video be a little bit premature because the arc just started? Yeah, of course, but does that mean that we are not allowed to judge the current material? No, we still can. So this is me answering the question, is BLUELOCK's U20 World Cup arc actually mid? Now, for what I am considering the U20 World Cup arc of BLUELOCK serialization, I'm considering that basically every chapter from current all the way back to chapter 301. Personally, I view this arc like I do with the NEL, like a saga in One Piece, with chapters 301 to 310 covering the pre-U20 World Cup arc and the Nigeria game from chapter 311 to the current chapter of the story, which is 322 as I'm making this video. I think it's personally the best way to view the structure of the series, so I'll be referring to the U20 World Cup arc as a saga from now on, and I'll be addressing the pre-U20 as an arc, and the same for the match. Also, I feel the need to say this, that I don't actually think the match or the entire U20 World Cup saga is entirely that bad. I just think that I have some complaints with the current writing and structure of this next phase of the BLUELOCK story, and I want to hear your thoughts. Now, the starting complaint I have is the constant cuts towards Nagi away from the main BLUELOCK story. I'm a huge Nagi fan, and ever since he was eliminated, I have honestly really missed him interacting with our main cast. But the recent decision of showing Nagi separate from BLUELOCK, as well as cutting back to him as alternating chapters, doesn't really feel like the most effective way to convey Nagi's development in this story. I feel like it just throws off the pacing of this saga a little bit, considering that we keep cutting from BLUELOCK back to Nagi, and it keeps alternating between chapters for pretty much a couple months. It was going on for. We got his lock off in chapter 300, him crying in chapter 302, snips of him in chapter 303, his moment outside of BLUELOCK in chapter 306, his offer to Baratsada in chapter 308, the little moment of him at the end of chapter 309 with him at the arcade, the full chapter of him and Igiguri in chapter 310, his cameo in chapter 311 before the Nigeria game, and then in chapter 312, we saw him rush into Baratsada's VIP room. We have been getting Nagi repeatedly, and it just doesn't feel like a natural flow for him or his character, and he feels just kind of forced into this story. The development for Nagi during these chapters isn't really what bothers me, because I really like seeing him get some depth to his character outside of being just fired up or being nonchalant. But the way that these chapters feel like they force themselves into the story is what actually bothers me here. I much rather would have dedicated them prior to the side B announcement in chapter 311 from Baratsada, or even afterwards, and then we get all of the chapters together before the Nigerian match as a Nagi flashback section. The reason that this gets to me, aside from just the general pacing of the serialization for the manga, but also how I could envision it being adapted into the BLUELOCK anime, which would be for like season 4. The BLUELOCK anime typically adapts around 4 chapters per episode, meaning we would be getting constant cuts between the main BLUELOCK team and Nagi throughout the entire episode. It would just feel so forced down our throats when it came to the adaptation, even more so than in the original source material. Again, I'm not saying that the Nagi development is bad by any means, but I am saying that the way of structuring it into the pre-U20 World Cup arc was just not it, in my opinion.
Before I continue the video, let's talk about sleep. No matter who you are, sleep is important. And because sleep is so important, I'm here to talk to you guys about a way to make it better, thanks to this video's sponsor, Manta Sleep. Manta Sleep specializes in customizable sleep masks that feature unique removable foam eye cups. These cups can create a 100% blackout environment without applying any kind of pressure to the eyes, which is beneficial for side sleepers and those who are sensitive to light. These masks are also made from breathable materials, ensuring comfort throughout the night. Manta Sleep was even kind enough to send me their Manta Sleep sound mask, which not only comes with all the previous features, but also built-in Bluetooth speakers. By adjusting the blue tabs on this sleep mask, you can position the Bluetooth speakers right next to your ear for maximum comfort and audio clarity. And with the Velcro detachable face panel, you can adjust the volume of your music without ever taking off the sleep mask. And if you're worried about battery life, don't, because this Bluetooth sleeping mask has over 20 hours of battery life. They aren't even paying me to tell you this part, but ever since I got the mask, I've been getting full night's sleep that have made me feel more energized and rejuvenated than ever before. Seriously, with the material of these masks, you can hardly tell that it's on your face, but at the same time, you feel more relaxed and comfortable while you're sleeping. Don't just take my word for it though, here's a statement from another happy customer. With the brighter days ahead of us, sleeping masks like these ones are becoming even more essential. So if you head over to Manta Sleep's website using the link in the description and use the code AERO10 at checkout like it appears on screen, you can save 10% off your entire order. That's not even including the 15% you save if you spend $99 and the 20% you save if you spend $150. Thank you again to Manta Sleep for sponsoring today's video, and now let's get back into it.
Now, my next biggest complaint will be me kind of nitpicking or me seeming a little bit ungrateful for what we got, but I really wanted to see more of Isagi traveling the world and getting his own little world tour section of the story. During chapter 304, Isagi was revealed to be given videotapes to understand the world of soccer, along with tickets to matches across Europe to watch professional matches in person. We get a taste of this in chapter 307 with him in Spain, where we got the introduction to Bonnie on FC Barça's senior team. But if I'm being honest, this one chapter just didn't feel like it was enough. The theories of Isagi going to Spain to play for Real had existed for so many years, and with the conclusion of the NEL, those theories were put to rest. But when we got Isagi in Barcelona, fans were going crazy, especially since we were going to see him traveling the world for his training. We didn't get to see that aside from a single chapter. Maybe I'm just greedy, but I really would have loved to see Isagi interpret the philosophies of the world, giving us a break from BLUELOCK's project to give this series some world building. We did get the NEL, which was made to expand upon the current philosophy of the world outside of Japan, but am I the only one who feels like the NEL just did not do it enough justice or just didn't do it right? The Barça game was really the only match in the NEL that felt tonally different from every other BLUELOCK match, as Bachara and Atoya seemed to embody the philosophy of their country pretty well. Manshine, Ubers, and PXG just felt like a normal BLUELOCK match, with the BLUELOCKers being a little bit buffed. The NEL was made to bring the environments of the world to the BLUELOCK building to expand upon these players and what they're capable of within these unique philosophies of Europe, and it just didn't do it right. With Isagi exploring the world, and based on his ticket for the games, he would be traveling to all of those countries. We would get the chance to experience the world's philosophy in the actual environment where that philosophy thrives. We also have 7 other new Generation 11 to meet, so having Isagi travel the world would give us a chance to meet the rest of the new gens in some capacity, so they aren't thrusted into the U20 World Cup matches. Now, if we do get a Kaiser spin-off manga like it's been very hinted at, this could be where we get the reveal of these other characters, but I just really don't want to see every single other new Generation 11 face off against the BLUELOCK. I think missing out on this world tour section of the story for Isagi really is a huge miss by the creator. It would give us so many different possibilities for depth for the story, and considering we didn't get really anything more from this in chapter 322, again, it's just a huge miss. Now, my next biggest complaint actually kind of ties into my complaint with Isagi not going on his world tour, that being the fact that we didn't get a BLUELOCK versus BLUELOCK match. With Isagi going to Spain and the other people having their training, it would give us around 2 weeks away from the standard BLUELOCK project. Now, obviously, the 2 weeks of training was meant for everybody, but there are still some writing decisions that could have been made to make this match happen. First off, with Isagi having to go watch 5 different matches in 5 different countries given the NEL's teams, give him more time in these countries aside from just the 2 weeks. Give him the opportunity to explore that country's philosophy outside of the football matches. I feel like outside of the matches, giving Isagi the chance to assimilate a little more into the community of each country would allow for him to connect to the sport even more. Plus, with all of the footage to go through thanks to Ego, give Isagi a 1-week addition to his time away from BLUELOCK, so instead of 2 weeks, give him 3. And while this is happening, have the other 22 BLUELOCKers play against each other to hone their unique specific trainings. We got a small snippet of it in chapter 311 when they returned to the project, but give us a full mini arc for it. With the Nigerian game, we see BLUELOCK absolutely destroying them with a 3-0 lead, with us getting snips of the specific training and results of it during this match. But considering the performance of Blue Lock versus Nigeria could technically be registered as a Class B felony because this is just straight up abuse, why not have the Blue Lockers play against each other to show off their specific trainings against people who can actually hold a candle to them? Like, wouldn't it be cool to see Nico steal the ball from Rain and actually hold him off as opposed to Kuso? It would give a huge boost to who they are as players. Or you could have Bachara cook our current defensive line, or have Rayo master copy everyone in the process. The results of these training would have such a bigger impact on the story because we're scaling them against characters that we can actually hold a bar to. With this game, it's just a one-sided slaughter. Nigeria has had 3 opportunities for awakenings, and they have all failed. The first was blocked by Gagamaru, the second was blocked by Rin, and the third was just stopped by Corona, Raichi, and Isagi. The results of their training really aren't being put into fruition and not showing accurate results because Nigeria doesn't hold a candle to who they are as players, and realistically, they never have. This isn't a relative proportion to their skills because Nigeria just cannot hold a candle to them. And with the France game up next, how exactly do we compare the Blue Locker skills then? We could have used the Blue Lock versus Blue Lock game to give depth to new chemical reactions and team-ups, and also assign new positions for characters that we don't really have confirmation for, like Kunigami playing as a defensive midfielder, but we could also show the fruits of the training by Ego. And then you could handle Isagi's training and development from his 3 weeks away during the Nigeria game. There you go, you get fan service and you get better writing. Now this also ties into the previous complaint I just had, with my next complaint being that Nigeria was just too overhyped. Going into the U20 World Cup, the arc that we have all been waiting for, we were ready for this match to be on an even higher level than the new Egoist League. Hell, in chapter 303, Henri herself says that the U20 World Cup and the main World Cup now hold a similar standing within the football sphere. So to me, I'd assume that the skill, while obviously not equal because you got characters like Livigno, Noah, and Chris Prince playing on that higher level, this U20 World Cup would obviously be on a level above the Neo Egoist League. But that just isn't the case here. Nigeria was a country that was labeled as Africa's champions, the kings of Africa, and were confirmed to have won the African Cup in chapter 317. But as we see now, Blue Lock is absolutely fucking destroying them. Now, considering these guys had won the African U20 Cup, and based on speculation from chapter 303, this means that they beat not just one, but 2 separate new generation 11. How is that possible? I've spoken on this before, and I'm not even sure that the Nigerian team would be able to beat the former U20 Japan team, let alone the former Blue Lock team. And it just doesn't make sense to me how these guys could be so garbage at the sport. This is the U20 World Cup. This is a team that was able to 6-0 another country's team, and yet somehow their skill level isn't even equal to what the previous Blue Lock 11 used to be. I don't get it. I feel like the decision to make this team garbage and have Isagi be the catalyst for them evolving is great, but it isn't a good one at this point in the story. If this was like a team that Isagi was teaching in the same way that Bachara was with the kids, then yeah, I would kind of understand that. But these guys are the champions of Africa. These guys are supposed to represent Nigeria as the best players for their country, and they are getting their asses beat. The hype for Nigeria, especially in previous chapters, doesn't equate to their current skill level, and I really wish that they were a little bit stronger. It would give Blue Lock some push to evolve even more because the circumstances kind of need it. The NEL was a great teaser for what the bar needs to be for the U20 World Cup, and only a few characters, mainly the top of the Blue Lock ranking, can actively fight on that level. With the results of their training, have them be relative to Nigeria, so you have Nigeria become a better team, and then you get them absolutely crushed by France. It gives them incentive to evolve in the England game, which could tie into the Side B project and Nagi's potential return to Blue Lock. Plus, you can use this as an outlet for Isagi's own evolution. He's been hyped up this entire game as the central figurehead of the match, so let Isagi use his training and evolution to really show what he's learned and how he's grown. I think the point with Nigeria being this weak team just doesn't seem accurate with past consistencies as well as direct evidence from the manga, which would supposedly show off their strength. Because saying Onazi carried Nigeria to a victory in the African Cup doesn't make any sense. There's not even a chance that someone like Sai or Kaiser or Lorenzo could carry an 11-man team to a victory in a continent cup. But you're telling me that Onazi was able to carry his team to victory against 2 other new generation 11? I think it's just ridiculous, man. I know I've been very negative for this video, but I promise you this is my last complaint from the arc. that being the overall pacing of this match and what it means for the pacing of future matches. When it comes to this arc, the issue I have most with the Nigeria game is the fact that it sets the stage for how Blue Lock will be written in the future. And I think that the pacing for this game has been incredibly inconsistent. During the beginning of the match, from the start to the very first goal, we got confirmation that it was around 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Starting from Nigeria's initial assault into Blue Lock's counter, to Isagi, Reo, and Karasu stealing the ball, into Isagi's assist to Bachara and Bachara's goal, those were essentially 3 chapters worth of content. Technically 2 because chapter 314 was split up into 2 chapters because of issues with the mangaka's health, but I'm still calling it 3 either way. But that was all around 4 minutes of time, which is very fast for Blue Lock, making this goal the quickest we have seen in an official match. What irks me though is the pacing for following chapters. In the span of half of chapter 315 to the ending of chapter 316, with Nigeria's attack and Nico stopping it, along with Ryo and Bachara's counter, that apparently took a total of 30 minutes of game time? That doesn't make any sense to me. And I know it's an issue with timing and such. Like, I get that the match is supposed to be progressing, but it took 3 chapters to go through 4 minutes, and now it's taking not even 2 to move through 30 minutes? I understand the issue originally with the Blue Lock versus Japan U20 game, since the pacing for this match is essentially the same as it was back then, but it still bothers me. Along with previous writing decisions and complaints from before, I feel like the decision to time this match in this particular way just isn't what I would hope from Blue Lock for future games. And it does worry me a little bit about the future of the story. We have 2 games remaining in the group stage, that being the game against France and the game against England. But we also have these side B projects, so who knows how long that little side moment is going to take. I feel like Kaneshiro and Nomura need to either add some more content to the story or adjust the timing to future matches, because if this match is an indicator of what is to come, I would be a little bit nervous. So when it comes to the current saga of the story, is Blue Lock's U20 World Cup actually mid? Well, in my opinion, no. Despite all my claims and points in this video, I don't find the current saga for the story boring or stale, and I've actually enjoyed it more than the PXG game at some points. But again, that's just my personal opinion. Aside from that though, I hope you guys did enjoy this video and will continue to enjoy it in the future. I just want to leave a reminder to join my Discord server, the New Egoist Geeks, to become an even closer part of our community. And as for the question of the video, what is your biggest complaint from Blue Lock's U20 World Cup? Leave me your thoughts down below in the comment section. Like always, I've been Aero, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next Blue Lock video.